right off the bat consideration, we've got three other chief deputies of other elected offices that are in that same position. How do we justify that to them to arbitrarily take one office's employee and move them to the top of the scale? How do we not do it for the other three?
I guess
It's kind of a rhetorical question, but it's the dilemma that we're faced with when we make these decisions or we have these requests.
So then why is that any different than if I had come and asked you when she hired in?
I think that at the time of hiring is more palatable or more acceptable when you come with I've got this employee that comes to us with X amount of experience and whatever, and I need to start her at a higher than a beginning wage because of that. But to hire her, and then your initial request was before she'd even been here a year, wanting
Within
us
2 weeks of being here a year. It was very close to the time. It was a year. So
say a year and 2 months. I'm gonna fight over 2 weeks, but that's just hard to justify because she's an employee in the system with now a year, and we've got 3 other people that are in that same situation. They're employees that are in the system with somewhere between starting and the 5-year that haven't gotten to the top of that scale. So again, how do we justify to the other 3 that we're just going to move one of them to the top?
well, I don't know that you need to. Who else is asking you for the same thing?
The other 3 tomorrow, if
Right.
we grant
Right. Yeah.
for starters.
Well-
But beyond that, I don't have to be kicked in the head to figure out that I'm not doing something equitable. I like to be consistent. I like to treat all the employees consistently. I don't have to have someone point it out to me that I haven't been consistent. I can figure that out on my own. I know that that's not consistent with how we would deal with the employee pool in general. Do you see where I'm coming from? I mean, I completely get your argument, and I'm not faulting you for it. I would probably be exactly the same. If I was the treasurer, I'd be looking out for the treasurer's office. But being a commissioner, we're looking out for all the offices. And it's hard to single one department out and make that distinction when you've got, in this case, 3 other ones that could conceivably have the same argument.
What are those 3 other ones?
It's 2 other ones. Stephanie's one of them.
How long has Stephanie been in her position?
4 years.
So she's in the 4th year of her cycle.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the other one is Sarah down in the Drain
Drain
Commission.
Commission.
So we've got a 4-year employee by everyone's estimation, does an excellent job. How do we tell her we're going to leapfrog up we're going to take someone with a 1.5 year experience, move them to the top, and forget about your 4 years. We're just going to leave you at year 4.
Well, I would not want you to do that. I'm not asking you to do that at all.
How do we not? I mean, what are you asking? You're asking us to do exactly that, aren't you? You want us to move your employee to the top. And I'm saying it's more complicated than that. I don't know that she isn't deserving of that and warrants it and is a tremendous asset to your office. I'm not debating or arguing any of those points. I'm just saying the complicatedness of the ask is more than just what works for the treasurer's office. And that's always our dilemma, quite frankly.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
Joanne, how much does she make currently? Do you know that?
$52,015.
Okay.
That's the 1 year with the bump.
Right. And so so you say you don't want her to get a raise, you just want to see her at the top of the scale. Isn't that kind of go hand in hand?
My point was, when I started this whole process, I had nothing to do with a wage study or seeing how everybody
Right.
else.
You wanted her to be at the top of the scale when you started this last fall. I understand that. But now with the 52,015 or whatever it is, she's at that number. She's a little higher than that number would have been when you asked originally.
Well, before the bump, the top
Right,
of the
before the
scale was
bump.
53.
Right.
53. And then this one only prints out 3 years, so I'm not sure. At 3 years, it was 50,000. But
So I guess my question is, okay, we've gave her, I think Brenda said, a 12% raise in 1 year. You would like to see another, we'll call it $6,000 on top of that. So how do I justify to my constituents that we give out a 30% raise in 1 year for a 1.5 year employee, when again, we have employees that aren't at that level that have been here for 4 years? It's just like Commissioner Carr said, we're going to get our doors beaten in tomorrow if we grant this and say, well, we've granted the one, we've got to grant them all.
so then did that happen when the clerk asked for a 6-month employee to get booted or boosted to the 2-year level? Were everybody knocking on your door wanting their employees to do that too?
Aren't you doing that right now?
I'm one person. I'm asking you, what
Oh.
you just said was that everybody's going to be beating on your door.
Mm-hmm.
Did that happen when the clerk came and asked for a boost and I don't have any problem with her getting a boost. That's not my issue. I don't see the big difference between what you granted last month and what I'm asking for today.
It's $6,000. That's the big difference.
How much was her boost
Whose boost?
that went from the 6-month to a 2-year scale?
I don't remember what employee we're talking about, I guess.
Laura,
I'd have to look at the wage scale.
Regardless, we've already given this employee a bump in pay. You say it's not about the raise, but you want her to make more money. You don't want her to get a raise, you want her to make more money, correct? Can you see where that it kind of hangs me up a little bit?
it's, sure, I can see that. Yep.
Okay.
But I'm still here asking that she get, if you can't see going to the top of the scale, I'd like to see her move to the 3-year wage. And then next October, go to the 4-year wage. Sorry. And when you say that you've given her a 12 or whatever it was percent, you gave that position, not that person. This was across the board. It was in the paper, 58,000 for chief deputies.
At the top of the scale.
Right,
Right.
right. So it wasn't specific to a person. It was to a position.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Alexander?
I guess I'd like to weigh in a little. I tend to agree with Chairman Carr that if she was hired in at the top of the scale, I guess it seems like a different story to me because she's coming in, you think she has all this experience. And I guess to me, that's a whole different thing than just tossing the steps out of the equation and going right to the top of the scale. So it's kind of my feeling on it.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Commissioner Carr, this is when I look at the ask back in October, and I'm going off memory. It seems like if we would have granted it then, the pay scale would have been 52,104. Is that right?
Correct. At the 3-year,
Yeah,
at the top of the.
and that's if we would have done that. I mean, the current rate that she's at right now is already greater than that.
Right, but if you'd done that then,
She'd be at
She's-
58,000.
she'd still be getting the bump that everybody got when you had the results of the wage study. That's my point. If back in the beginning it had been granted, then the bump would have just happened.
I agree. But the point I'm trying to make is, and I don't know if that's similar to what Commissioner
Yeah.
Murray's getting at, is the statement that we made when you felt like we were kind of giving you the bum's rush here was hold off and wait. Let
I know
us do the
that.
wage study. She
Mhm.
may come out better than what your ask is. I contend that she did come out
Yeah.
better than what your ask was, because the number and there was no guarantee back then that the wage study was going to bear any fruit. So your ask of moving her to that step was irregardless of what we did with the wage study. The wage study honestly
Was a bonus.
came real close to not even happening because it got to be such a
Right.
hassle.
I don't,
So your ask last year really was less than where she ended up right now anyway. You're right. Had you been successful, she would have taken advantage of that and the wage study the way it turned out, but there was no guarantees that that wage study was going to come to fruition.
I wasn't baking anything on the wage study.
Good.
That was not my intent or my purpose.
Well,
So-
continue, Commissioner Murray. I mean to butt in on your.
Oh, that's right. I just, like Commissioner Carr said, I have a really difficult time bumping her to a 5-year pay scale when we've got others that, I mean, listen, they'd be crazy not to do the same thing, and we'd be having another meeting next. Our next meeting would be requests for the same thing from the rest of the offices, because that would just make sense. I guess I'd probably have a little different feeling on the whole thing had she not already seen a 12% increase this year.
Go ahead, Commissioner Mahar.
Joanne, we believe you that Lisa's doing really well, and
Mhm.
we believe you that she has helped out in a pinch, with being there and learning things and being able to run that office when you're not there, and we're very thankful for that. We believe that. We just spend an enormous amount of time with a wage study to try to help this county elevate its wages to a competitive place.
I understand that.
And I think we've done that. And I think that shows that we do care about people and their wages. At the same time, I really, and I'm only speaking for myself, but I would really like to get away from these individual asks, because they really make it difficult on us. Because as been stated, there is a high likelihood that others are going to also want those. And then it also adds in the question is then what did these contracts and what do these wages mean if we're going to invite, people to come in consistently, asking for wages. And I don't think it's the best way to handle that. I think we negotiate this stuff and we have these scales and we want to try to make them as fair as possible. And we just really did a whole encompassing, raise. And so I think she's doing great, but I don't want to invite this type of situation when we have department heads and elected officials coming before us routinely, asking for us to look at individuals, because it really is going to tie up our time. And I just don't think it's the right way to handle wages. And so I would be against this, not because I think she's not deserving or that she's done, a great job. I just think that the way I don't want to handle wages like this.
And I just would point out, this is certainly not the first time something like this has come before the board.
You're right.
So it's not, I'm not,
I agree. I don't think
you're.
I don't think you're out of line at all. In
Yeah.
fact, I agree with what Commissioner Carr said. If I was in your same shoes, I would be also advocating for my employee, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, I feel like it's a slippery slope a little bit, and I hate that argument, but it does invite others to do the same. And personally, I'd like to stay away from the individual looks.
Well, I guess I would just say again that if the top of the scale is out of the picture, I really would like you to put her to at least the 3-year wage as opposed to the 5. And let's see where it goes from there. But she's definitely worth that kind of money.
What step is she currently? Remind me.
She's at the 1-year step. As of October.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Peterson, Vice Chairman Peterson.
I would move to place the treasurer's request on file at this time.
Support. It's been moved and supported to place the treasurer's request on file. Discussion. I could probably be persuaded to move her one step, consistent with how we dealt with the employee in the clerk's office recently, based on years of experience and where she's been. I think we could go to step 2 and be consistent with that. Outside of Stephanie being at step 4, where's the other employee in the system? What step?
1 year, I think. She hired in 2 years ago. Maybe she's at the 2-year. Look, let me get to it.
Register of
She's
deeds?
been here 2 years, and
No, the drain office.
I think she's been here 2 years just this month.
So is granting this to the 2-year step in conflict with any of those other, is that a slap in the face to that gal that's 2 years? Probably not Stephanie that's already at 4.
Stephanie's at the 3-year step. She'll go to the 4 this summer. There's only 4 years in the step. 5 steps, 4 years.
Because of the 6-month thing. Yeah.
We have a motion of support on the floor, so I'm going to call the question.
Okay. Question's been called. The motion on the floor is to place this request on file. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye.
Aye.
Gonna need a roll call.
Alexander,
Yes.
Johnston, Mahar,
No.
Murray,
No.
Peterson here, Peterson,
Yes.
Carr.
No.
3 noes, 2 yeses.
So
Motion failed.
if you're willing to consider something less, I'm certainly more than happy to accept whatever you would be willing to consider.
The resume that Joanne cites that this gal has is consistent with how we've dealt with similar situations in the past at hire. So I don't know that she doesn't have the credentials that warrant a bump, but it's that tough spot of doing it after the fact when we've got other people in the system that are in that same scenario.
And I understand that, and I don't know that it behooves me to try and dig up dirt as to why I handled her hiring different. I don't want to go down that road, but hindsight's always one thing. But if there's anything I can do to help get her on a higher scale, I really would like to do that.
Chairman Carr, are you considering a step 2 or 3? Are you? I mean,
2.
There's no. So we're talking. She would be there in like 6 months.
She'd move one spot immediately, and then she'd be in line to advance when everyone else advances, I think.
You advance on your date of hire, so
Okay.
October.
different.
October.
Mhm.
And I don't know, I'm just kind of floating it out there. I haven't processed that completely through my head.
Your drain commissioner will probably be up here next. I don't know.
How close is the drain?
Because she's been here
commissioner?
longer.
How close is she to her? Well, it's a 1 level bump.
The drain commissioner's deputy is at a 2-year.
No, I don't.
Is at her 2-year step.
I wanted to hear what he'd say.
She's been here 2 years this month.
I just thought when I made the motion to place it on file, everybody said they're against this. We get a Hail Mary thrown out there, and then all of a sudden, well, let's look at it. When are we going to draw a hard and fast line that says, yeah, we're not doing that right now? instead of, well, we're not doing that, but we'll do this. It's just, what are we doing?
That's fair.
You can sit there and say, oh, we're not going to do this right now. Everybody's had their own speech about it. And then right at the last minute, yeah, well, we could be persuaded to do something.
Well, Chairman Carr's getting soft in his old age.
Well, I'll tell you.
Well, I'd like to try and work with everyone to set something that makes sense and is consistent. And
We just did that for 6 months.
I guess
And we're going
when
to
do
be
you
doing
stop?
it again in another 6
I
months.
agree. You're right.
Yeah.
You know, what's to say we don't put Stephanie, maybe she thinks she's worth the top of the scale now that we're having this conversation. I guess that's my opinion.
Worth the top. That's the
Right.
problem.
I know that's what I'm,
Making her
but-
wait and do it on the
Right.
prescribed amount of time. She is worth
Exactly.
the top. She should have been at the top 2 years ago, 3 years ago. But we're making her, that's the dilemma. We're making her wait and go through it as prescribed and then making those that's what's always tough about doing
And I
those.
agree
yeah, the
with
whole
your
point of the
one-offs.
steps.
I agree with that. It's frustrating. It's, I don't know. Like, let's just stick to the schedule.
We've gotten to this point to where we just let everybody come in here and say, we need more money. Just carte blanche, whatever. Yeah, this person deserves more of that. That's not our job. We need to just make sure the budget is balanced. We need to examine this kind of stuff at budget time. We just went through 6 months of, are we going to do this at this wage? Are we going to do this at that wage? We've heard it all. And now we're saying, well, maybe we can just tweak it a little bit. Let's just make a decision.
And I will tell you that friend of the court wanted to be here at this meeting to ask for some of the very same things. They want to completely readjust their whole set of wage scales. And I said, that would be a better task to be handled during the budget process, because that's a big one. I mean,
But if we kick this down the road and say, well, yeah, maybe we can do something, they're going to come in next meeting and say, oh, I saw you guys do something. Let's work on it. I'm just saying there's got to be a line somewhere. It can't be blurry. Can't have twists and turns in it. We got to just make a decision. So I stick with what I said.
Commissioner Har.
I would like to make a motion to put the treasurer's request on file.
I don't know if we can do that.
Been moved and supported, place the treasurer's request on file. Discussion.
I think so.
Hearing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our 4:15, Doug is with us to discuss countertops at the jail, among other things.
I did put some pictures on your desks. He's probably going to talk about the countertops first, right?
Yep. So
Okay.
since the budget talks last summer started, some things have come to my attention that need some work in our facilities. The first one would be the jail. If you look at the countertop picture there, that is the worst, but there's about 7 other spots. Look at the doors on the cabinets. Those again are the worst. I took the pictures of the worst parts, not the best parts, of course. But really the countertops in there, they live in there, 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's always somebody at one of these stations, so they get pretty well beat up. Part of the reason I'm here is I've got some estimated or guesstimated prices. And again, because this wasn't in our budget talks when we talked about it last fall, I wanted to throw these out to you and see where we can go with these. I don't want to waste a lot of contractor time coming out bidding and then have you guys shoot me down going, nope, do it next year budget time. So roughly $23,000 to replace all the countertops in booking as well as in the, control center. And that would be with a Corian type top instead of the laminate tops. I've been told by the people that do this for a living, they'll hold up a lot better. The second thing, the next pictures are flooring. Commission on Aging has requested now that COVID is somewhat behind us. They're using their facility a lot more and bringing in a lot more people. They would like to spruce it up a little bit. There's a picture there of the carpet and what that looks like. And then the other picture is what we did in the dining room in 2021, I believe it was, or 22, when we replaced the old carpet in there that was looking really bad. So that one come in with a rough estimate of 24,000 to replace all the existing carpet with the plank floor type system. And then the third one was just something I was throwing out there. If we don't do it this year, I'll be back next year at budget time. But Ford Park, the asphalt's getting in bad shape. It's making it hard for anybody in a wheelchair or walker to move from. We added a patch of concrete when we did the cabins, made it nice for them to be able to get from the dining hall to the handicap cabin. But to get down to the pavilion or get to the down to see the kids at the beach is really difficult, because those are what little bit of blacktop there is around it is kind of a sandy material. So it makes it more difficult. And that price was roughly 18,000 for estimate. So what I wanted to do was, again, because you guys want to be financially responsible, was to throw them out there and see if there's any of these that you feel that I could have the money to pursue at this time, or if we need to wait till next budget year.
Okay. Anyone have questions for the maintenance director?
Brenda, what does our budget look like as far as?
So basically, we budgeted with the projects that ran through the budget process last year. We budgeted $409,000 in projects.
And what did we use?
Oh, we'll use all of that.
Oh,
409 on those projects, because one was the roof between the retention building and the court
Mm.
complex. The other is the roofs on the court complex or sheriff's department. And then the third one was the painting and the cells,
Jail.
the pods. So that was the 409, which is up from the normal 250 that we
right.
usually appropriate towards. And that's why we're asking, because it's like, I want to get this so we get these through the budget process and we don't have things that come up mid-year. So that's why he's asking if you'd want to do them. And going forward, we're going to go through the budget process, and unless it's an emergency, you won't hear us back again.
So I guess you support this, Brenda, is what you're saying?
The money's there, you know. I mean, we got lots of fund balance still. So for the parks fund,
As far as capital improvement, we have fund balance?
well, it comes from the general fund
Right.
appropriation. So
We earmarked some for
we had,
capital improvement.
we find that fund.
Yeah, I
We had
heard
220,000 in fund balance at the end of 24 in the capital improvements fund. So there's money there.
And what would you say is the number one priority here, Doug?
I would say the countertops in the jail.
Right?
Like I say, they're there 24/7. Second would be the carpet, or the replacement of carpet to vinyl plank. One, it will have a lot longer longevity, and that's what they're requesting as well, other than one small area that gets replaced with carpet. As for the parks, that's why I made a comment. If it doesn't happen this year, it's not going to change a whole lot from what it was last year. Typically, it's about the same renter, so they know what they're getting. But next year, it'll be one of my budget items.
So is this bid of the 23,000 for the countertops, is that just a guess? One bid?
That
Is
is
that an
one
average?
lumber yard that threw together the Corian price, where they have companies that come out, measure, make, deliver, set. It's all a kind of a one lump sum type activity versus having a contractor build, buying the Formica, buying whatever they buy for laminate. This is kind of a one and done as far as I contact a lumber yard and they put it all together from there.
Is that something you'd be willing to go out for bid on for these projects? And
Oh
we
yeah,
can see
that's my thought, is to go out. These are just
Okay.
numbers. I got numbers. I inflated them a little bit because I didn't know if it was going to be a this year or that next year type thing. I asked for budget numbers from the people. I basically went to one person in each of these locations and asked them, what do you think it's going to cost to do this?
So the parks one would come out of a different fund. That'd come out of the parks capital improvement fund. And there's 52,000 in fund balance there.
So it sounds like we can afford it. We just need to see hard and fast numbers.
Right. Well, and we just wanted to ask because Because in October, they came and asked for the carport at Commission on Aging. And that one, you guys made come out of Commission on Aging's fund balance. So I'm tiring myself of the approve the budget and then we ask for something that didn't get through
Right.
go through the budget process. So that's our whole point of being here is before we go out and do an RFP to everyone and waste everybody's time, is there something you guys would consider doing outside of the normal budget requests this year and get them done? And then going forward, we're sticking to the budget request process.
And in all honesty, if we don't do it, none of these places are going to shut down. I mean, they're still going to be able to operate normal. Just kind of a convenience for the people that work there or rent there.
So Doug and I are working on our capital improvement, a 5-year capital improvement plan that you'll see at budget time.
Does anybody have any objections to Doug and the controller going out and getting bids on this to at least see it?
I'd like to see bids.
Right.
Again, I didn't want to waste a lot of contractor time to have you guys go, nope, budget time,
Yeah.
bring it back. So
I would say it's something we're all acceptable with and good with.
because at
Anyone?
budget time, the numbers will be big. We got elevator
Yes, we
repairs
got
and
some
everything
good
else.
things
Yeah.
for this budget.
So
Right now, I have scheduled 655,000 or 665 for next year, 625 for the following year, 325 for 28 and 290 for 29. That's just what we're
But we
planning.
set 5 million off of the surplus, right?
Mhm.
We earmarked that for capital improvements.
That's-
So we're not going to be drowning. It's just going to be a
No.
very
No.
very large ask.
and some of these bigger numbers are mandated by the state. We have no
Right.
choice, but
Yeah, the
upgrade
elevator, I'm sure, is
elevators
one
and
of
things
them.
like that. So
This stuff is all in the new part of the deal, isn't it?
Mhm.
correct.
Some of that stuff seems excessive. I mean, I know they're there 24/7, but I got things in my house that are older than that and we're there 24/7 and they don't get taken care of.
But it's
like
not
that.
their house.
That's exactly the right answer.
I probably shouldn't say that on record, but
I don't think it's being streamed tonight, is it? It kind of fine came on.
oh yeah, now it came on.
Well, yeah, once Doug got up here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're agreeable to have you. Do we need a motion on it?
No, I don't think so.
I just need a
No.
nod.
I think
just
if you
needed to-
guys can come in at those rates or a little less than that, we're agreeable to do those projects.
Okay. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Doug.
Up next, our 420, we have Lisa Kasprack with us, the medical examiner group that does our ME services, to give us a report, annual report. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate that. Yeah, so our 2024 annual report for the medical examiner's office, representing all of the unexpected deaths that happened in Montcalm County. Most notably homicide, suicide, accidental, and unexpected natural deaths as well. So that's really what this entails. I would like to just let you know that we have a robust staff. This year we've gone through losing a couple people, gaining some more, but we are very thankful for those that we do have operating within the county. One of them is getting ready to take the national board certification test, which is quite incredible. There's less than 100 in the state of Michigan, considering there's 83 counties and there's less than one per county. So that is another wonderful thing that we are working towards. So the staff is definitely there and supporting each of the citizens in their time of need, because these were all unexpected. So, jumping right in to the manner of death by your comparison, we watch for this mostly for CDC purposes, vital statistics, and also anything that we need to report to Department of Health. So as we can see, the number of deaths increased only slightly, about 6.8%. However, what we're watching for here is any anomalies with any of the categories. So we're very thankful that we have, mostly natural unexpected deaths, and, that all of the other are not quite as serious as they could be. So in some of our counties, we've had an uptick in suicides, and we'll get to some of the more unintentional deaths that are caused accidentally in a couple of minutes. But yeah, so the cause of death by year comparison, heart disease is the leader, with unintentional injuries being 22% in second place. So that is. Then moving on to the drug deaths. We have quite the array of drugs that are present in Montcalm County. I can tell you that compared to, we have jurisdiction over 15 counties, 16 because we're temporarily covering another. And I can tell you that this is a notable chart with the different types of drugs that are here. Based off of the commissioner's requests in the past, I actually put some more detail down at the bottom here. So you can see that within, the other opioid category, hydrocodone and methadone were definitely there. And then we went on to say that the age range of these overdose deaths ranges from 22 to the age of 67 years of age. So that is with the median age of 53 and a half years old. 5 were, males, 1 was female, 2 were mostly homeless, but staying with a family member at their time of death. And so we're trying to draw more data from what we're seeing with the drug abuse. So data is definitely something that is important in the opioid crisis. I like to see our collection on drugs, whether it be legal drugs like marijuana, illicit drugs. Some of the drugs are gateway drugs to more serious drugs. I like to be able to really take in the data and how the person get to where they got. And that's really part of an initiative, a data initiative on drugs that we're starting to work toward. Has anybody been part of the commissioner panel or in county government back before we did the sudden unexpected deaths? Or I don't know if any of you remember, there was quite the initiative a couple decades ago where we said, oh my goodness, there are just way too many babies dying. We need to know why. And so what that turned into is now when we go on investigate deaths, we have 4 different page packet that's put out by a national organization. We have dolls on scene. It led to the Back to Sleep campaign. If any of you were had children before back to sleep or after back to sleep. And now there's a safe sleep, meaning no big teddy bears or fluffy bedding. And all of that came about because of different data points on those sudden infant deaths. Back before there were seatbelts, I said, wow, a lot of automobile accidents. What we can do? Let's put some seatbelts in. And so a lot of what we do on data collection at the scene that goes above and beyond just cause and manner. We can say, sure, these people had drugs in their system, they're dead. Okay. But how do we make a difference? And how we make a difference is by collecting more data on the scene, much like we do with the sudden infant deaths. So we're looking forward to that coming in the future. It would be nice if we can, have all of the forensic pathologists at our disposal to tell us every single thing about every single death. That is just a pipe dream in this country as the number of forensic pathologists continue to go down. But, it's definitely worth saying, how many correctional deaths have we had? Depression is definitely one that we're starting to ask questions on. And so all of this information woven together, then we can go ahead and present that to other committees that the county has going and that we get repeated requests for information regarding. So so that's drugs. One thing that I would like to also say is we had a presentation here from a national forensic radiologist. Pat was there. We had prosecutor representation. Brenda was there. We had Michigan State Police. We had the sheriff's office, and overwhelmingly, our CT scanner next phase of automating forensic pathology was overwhelmingly liked by your panel. So CT scanners can detect up to 85% of what a invasive autopsy can do. We call it a virtual autopsy. It is a scan of the body that goes to a professional, a forensic radiologist, and we can sometimes even detect more than what an invasive autopsy can do. So as the number of live living forensic pathologists goes down, the number of autopsies that are done where they're actually transporting the body, cutting up, now we're moving into a little more automation. So we are 10 months into our installation of our first CT scanner in Crawford County. And so that over the next couple of months then will complete its installation. And just a little piggyback on the drugs here and all the data and really trying to provide better data and move into the next 100 years maybe of how autopsies are done versus the past 100 years. I would like to, at this time while we're talking about drugs, really just entertain wondering what the next steps would be for me to go ahead and put the CT scanner in Montcalm County so that we can have the next steps toward automating autopsies and getting, darn near 100% of every unexpected death, scanned, cause, manner. This type of technology will support more than just the medical examiner's office. This supports every law enforcement office that you have in the county. This supports your prosecutor's office. It supports Department of Health, because should we find another COVID, we'll be able to detect. This will also be mass fatality readiness, because should we have a mass fatality, we have to know what we're going to do and how we're going to properly scan, get cause and manner, back, detect anything that we can't see on the surface. So there are a lot of different reasons why this technology, could benefit from being the next place that I install a scanner in. So I would like to entertain that idea with you and really find out what my next steps could be. The scanner that I put into Crawford County was $230,000 for the scanner, and then there's installation. So there's a sheet of lead wall that needs to go up and around. I need approximately, 12 by 12, where it can be narrow, it can be longer, it can, we can vary with the size, but I'll put that together. And so that's really what we're looking forward to. And a lot of that hinges on the drugs problems, and then being able to be ready for anything that might be coming. So, which of course the next page then would highlight what the CT scanner would really do an amazing job at, which is the accidental injuries, the blunt force trauma, which is exactly what you need a scanner for. The drug use, of course, falls, there's quite a number of falls, and then somebody's demise that leads from that fall. Suicide deaths, unfortunately, there were 9. One had a contributing factor with drugs and alcohol. And then we have, at the bottom, last but not least, but the silver lining in the office, in that Montcalm County was able to donate 4 residents to their wishes of being able to move forward with their donation for organ, tissue, and eye bank. So that's really where we are. I'd love to answer any questions that you have about anything that I have presented or that is not in the report, or scanner specific questions.
Anybody have a question for Lisa?
Yes. Anybody?
Could you talk about the THC deaths? Do you know any specifics on those? Are those balls or corrections?
I didn't have her, other than the fact that it was identified in somebody, and then I could figure out, people usually don't die from an overdose of THC. What happens is that's normally, you're probably aware, a gateway drug toward other things or accidents that happen while under the influence. So, yeah.
Or they just go to sleep.
Right. Well, it could have been one of
I wouldn't
the,
know how. I don't know how. I know
since
that.
there was drugs and alcohol in one of the suicides, that also could be something what do they call, well, I mean, sort of the slang term, which is probably not proper to say, but liquid courage sometimes is used before somebody were to try and commit suicide. That's very common. It's not always liquid anymore. It can be the THC. So,
It's nice to see that the meth and the fentanyl deaths are down
right.
in 24
Right.
from previous years.
And cocaine
Mhm.
went away. So that was good too. So,
Heroin's still there. though.
yeah. Yeah. Any
We
We need a
talked
mo-
about the scanner before. Did we consider a multi-county sharing of one? Did we ever talk about that? I was just looking at the map and the geography, the one in Crawford County, and we had a pretty good relationship with Mecosta and Nuevo when we were part of the Morgan Authority. Could the scanner be placed in the,
Yeah, that's what I'm
Morgan
looking for. Because
Cross.
obviously, as you can imagine, Crawford County is has a very small population. So putting something of that size and just amazing technology there, the vision that will come, because I have jurisdiction over so many of the counties there, so I already know that they're going to get referrals from at least the counties that surround them, and that is exactly what we would want to do here for Montcalm, is to open it up to other counties, not just those that we have jurisdiction over. But, Ionia, of course, Mecosta would come down, anybody that wanted to utilize that technology to scan. And the beautiful thing about the scanner is that if some of the other counties are like, we don't really know, maybe we want to have a autopsy, maybe we don't, but let's just send for a scan. The scan doesn't need to be read. So imagine you go to the hospital, you get a scan, 10 years down the road, you want someone to read it and tell you what happens now. When that happens with drug delivery causing death a lot, because we already know from the toxicology what the cause of death is. We don't need a scan to show us the absence of, but it will be better to present that in court, the absence of. We can say, yes, it was due to this amount of drug in the human body, it cannot sustain. That's exactly what the cause of death is. But then it's better for the prosecutors. So we believe that other counties will come and say, hey, let's just use Montcalm's scanner, do a 7-minute scan. We'll keep it on file. When we're ready to prosecute the guy, then we'll go ahead and pull it out. And so, because it's 7 minutes and the bodies all stay in the body bags, they never come out. There's very little.
do you envision that being like one county taking the lead and owning it and having it? Or do you
Mhm.
see a collaboration of multiple counties throwing in assets and owning it collaboratively?
Yeah, I am going to set up the system, or we've already started setting up the system in Crawford so that Crawford owns it.
Okay.
And then they will then almost like a facility fee, like we do for autopsies and stuff. There's when they used to go to Grand Rapids or in Big Rapids, there's a facility fee. So Montcalm could get back that facility fee to pay for, increased electricity, upkeep, much like we did with the morgue. You sort of a pay it forward for routine maintenance, snow plow around the area if it's not already plowed. And
You
so,
would envision that every county eventually would want one.
oh yes,
Yeah.
I do. Yeah.
So at some point in time.
Yeah, especially, with the decrease in forensic pathologists and the increase in technology. You've seen computers replace people all over, and this is a science. So this is definitely something that, is definitely coming in the future. It's really, I just came back from a conference and it's really big. There are so many places that, of course, have them, and then other places that are working toward getting them. The collaboration is there. It's just working. Puerto Rico has 2. That was a fantastic presentation. I would love to be able to show your law enforcement and prosecutor on that one. It was great. Because I can't get enough forensic pathologists there,
Right.
So yeah, I think that eventually, maybe not in my lifetime, every county will have one, but I believe that it will be common. And the UP might have to share a couple counties per scanner, but yeah. Any other questions about the machine or the installation or the pricing?
Lisa, are you the sole owner of this company?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yes.
I think that's important to know. I did not know that for my first year. I thought you were just an administrator. But you actually profit from this company. And so I just want sure the board knows that.
Yeah, absolutely.
As far as the machine goes, would you profit from that? The
No.
sale of that?
No, and actually, my company is a management company only. So you only pay for the time that my company provides for management, which is different than if you were to have Sparrow or Kalamazoo. They order the autopsies, and then they do the autopsies, and then they get the funds for doing the autopsies. So I'm glad you brought that point up, because we are not like a doctor ordering prescription drugs and then ordering the pharmacy. Okay, that's not what we are, because we are management only. So I'm glad you brought that up, because that's a very important point. That's what sets us apart, because we don't have forensic pathologists at all. And I would not profit from any of this. And that's why Crawford owns it and not myself. So we simply order tests like your primary care physician. He doesn't own the MRI machines. He orders the tests. He doesn't own, the lab that does your blood work. He simply orders the test. So that's a great point. Thank you for
Who is
asking.
the company that we would be buying the machine from? If we were-
Well, we could get an RFP, but we've already vetted this one company, and they're called Forensic Radiology Group, and they are one of the biggest. We looked at different types of scanners, and this is the ones that they are refurbished. They have been used before, but it's much like buying a car. We don't believe that we need a brand new car to get us from A to B. We believe that one with low miles is probably what will get us there. So yeah, absolutely. And I don't have any affiliation with the company, and I do not get kickbacks from the company whatsoever. It
Good to know.
helps us provide better service to the counties that are underserved by forensic pathology. We simply just order. That's it.
Thank you.
Yes.
It makes sense. Especially with the numbers going down.
On the list of our MEIs, are we down from numbers in the past that we've had?
We did lose two, but the ones that we do have actually really take a lot of calls. So as far as volume goes, the schedule has been fairly full, which is fantastic. So
Which I think we'd probably be down about one, aren't we?
right, yeah,
That's fine.
because they used to come as a team, and so they were listed as two. But,
Oh, the other two.
yes.
But is this the gal that's like from Nuevo County or whatever?
Must be.
I didn't see much her.
Oh, she works for us, or she used to anyway, as a paramedic.
Oh,
Wasn't there a gal from like Nuevo County or something that was an MEI for us? Or Howard City at a
we
minimum?
did have one from Nuevo County, and she's no longer with us.
So she's different than the husband-wife team that we were
Mhm.
talking
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they were.
We're down 3 total.
Yeah. Well, the one from Nuevo County only covered when we couldn't fill the schedule. Yeah. So she wasn't, so we didn't really count that as a void.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. And husband and wife came as a couple. So they
We're only one.
were really, you're
Yeah.
correct. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yes.
Anyone else have any questions for Lisa?
Do we need a motion to place this on file?
Sure.
I would make that motion.
Support. It's been moved and supported to place 2024 annual report from the medical examiner group on file. Discussion. Hearing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Up next, 4:35, we have the prosecutor Ginster with us to discuss assistant prosecuting attorney position. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm a little under the weather today, so stay away from me. Too many germs.
Hope the lights all out
I was just
tomorrow.
kind of passively listening to the coroner's or ME's testimony, and that full body scan is where all the major jurisdictions have already gone, and so it's wonderful to have that. You know, if you have a traffic scene or a traffic death, traffic fatality, and you can just find out how many broken bones there are. There's a lot less cutting involved. And all the prosecting, you can run a tox screen, send them through the scanner, and it gives you just about everything you need for court. So that's kind of state of the art. So hopefully we'll get there eventually at some point. Before you was a motion to accept Gail Benda's resignation. I did so very reluctantly. And I don't think it's a good idea for me to talk about somebody's private health issues in a public forum, but Gail, some time ago, had a horse riding accident, and she was restored to pretty good health. And then she had a little bit of a recurrence. And I knew this when I hired her, but I thought it was going to get better, and it hasn't gotten better. And she's been a real trooper. She was there. I think I owe her a debt of gratitude. The county owes her a debt of gratitude. She was there at a critical time during our transition. She was the only one in the office that had previously been a county prosecutor before. She was very resourceful. She has been a joy to work with. And if she feels that she can come back, I would hire her back in a nanosecond. Joanne, when talking about describing her assistant, she used the word exceptional. I don't know if there's a superlative for the attorneys I have so far, but Brenda Hartley is just probably, I've never worked with a prosecutor in my entire career. I'd put her up against anyone in a 200-mile radius. I think she could run any kind of office in this state. She has really good judgment. And Megan Billock is handling the load of what 2 attorneys used to handle in the office. And Gail herself has worked a lot of nights and weekends to try to deal with our docket. So my Rolodex is getting thin, and the optics of hiring a relative are not good. And I try to avoid this, but it's another stopgap measure. And my sister's doing this primarily as a favor for me. She wants me to succeed in this role. She's highly qualified, as you know. She was the city attorney for Saginaw for well over a decade. She provided leadership for a staff of 4 attorneys and I think 4 support staff. In 2018, I believe, she was one of 3 finalists for the Grand Rapids city attorney position. The recruiting firm started with, I think, 50 or 60 candidates, and she was one of 3 finalists. Most recently, she was a chief environmental lawyer for the city of Tampa. And I think what she brings is she has really good organizational skills. She'll be able to train our staff, which is sorely needed. And the sheriff I'm working with the sheriff. It's been a recurring issue for a long time with you guys as well, with the junk ordinance enforcement. And that gets pretty tricky. That's outside of my expertise. And I think Kathy would be in the best position to examine that and come up with some realistic solutions. I'm sure all of you get to the township meetings, you talk to your supervisors, and I'm starting to reach out to them, and some have called me. Not every township can afford legal fees. Not every township has a zoning ordinance. And so it's a priority for the sheriff, and it's a priority of mine. I'm sure it's a priority of yours. So let's get that figured out and have a path forward in ordinance enforcement for the junk ordinance. My sister was also the governor's appointee to the Trial Court Assessment Commission. I'm not going to go through her resume. I believe it's attached to your minutes, but she's more than qualified to fulfill this role.
Okay. Anyone have any questions for Prosecutor Genster?
Mr. Chairman,
Vice Chairman Peterson?
Mr. Ginster, when does the interim stop? When does the brief periods of hiring stop? Because I feel like this is
Right.
the third one so far.
Sure.
I feel like a lot of promises were made to constituents. And just from what I'm being emailed about, what I'm being told, they're not feeling like that's the direction this is going. I know the sheriff sent around a letter that said, you were the one that said we cannot prosecute any sort of blight ordinance. I mean, it's not a great look. And now we're going to try and sell to the constituents that we're going to hire your sister
Right.
to do this. I guess it kind of gets a little long in the tooth. When are we going to stop hiring interim or part-time people and really get the rubber hitting the road?
Yeah, that's a fair question. Well, the recruitment and retention crisis among prosecutors is alive and well. It's in all 83 offices. And now I went to the prosecutor's seminar up in Traverse City last week. And now the prosecutors are all going to the law schools. They're recruiting right from the law schools now, and we're going to have to join them. So this is just to buy some time, and there may not be stability in the office in a while. You say when it's going to end, there may not be stability in the office, but this is going to give me at least 6 months, and that will give me the opportunity to redouble my efforts in recruiting. And so I do intend to. My goal is, the objective is to get young prosecutors that we can train. They have some great mentors, and get them up to speed and create stability in the office, people that want to be in Montcalm County. So, but right now, there's some very serious cases on the docket, Commissioner, and I can't ignore them. I mean, we have to do what we can do, so.
So when a constituent comes to me and says, our prosecutor's behind, and now you've okayed hiring your sister, the word nepotism obviously is going to get thrown around. What is my retort to that going to be? How do I justify that we're hiring your sister at an interim basis?
It's my understanding there's no strict nepotism policy, but the word is a pejorative, and I try to avoid this hiring a relative, but it was my fallback position to fill that position, to buy me some time so I can recruit.
I'm sure that your sister is very qualified, but you understand the optics of it. You've said it a couple of times.
I'm the one that's going to take the political heat.
Unfortunately, yes and no.
Right.
We always get blamed for stuff,
Right.
no matter what, because we're going to approve the hiring or not approve it, and then we're kind of in a catch-22 either way. So the optics of it are what really holds me up, and I really want to see your office do well. I want to see your office succeed, obviously for the safety of our county, but it just feels like we're putting Band-Aid over Band-Aid over Band-Aid, and when's that bullet wound finally going to open up, and we're going to be in a rough spot.
Those are very fair questions. Very fair questions. And I'd like to come back to you 2 years from now and say, that things have stabilized, that we were able to recruit some young lawyers that are interested in law enforcement, that believe in the mission, and and they have a commitment to this county to be here for a long time.
I think I speak for the whole board. We would like to hear that too, but
Sure.
What's the likelihood of that happening?
No, I can't predict the future, and neither can you, Commissioner, right? So, no. So I think I'm hoping that what caused this crisis, of course, we talked about this, was the state, the governor and the legislature fully funding the indigent defense bar and not addressing funding for prosecutors. And so I would hope that they would create some equity at the state level, and that would address the situation.
Any other questions for Prosecutor Genster?
Yeah, I got one.
Go ahead.
So you're looking to hire her full time with no, like, not on an interim basis, or are you saying for so many months, or?
Yeah, I don't think I'll convince Kathy to stay more than 6 months because she doesn't want to lose her Florida residency because it has tax implications. So I anticipate it'll be for about a 6-month term. And my hope is I'll find some time then to start putting greater emphasis in recruiting.
And as far as the wage, I noticed it just says at the current designated salary. So is that the 103 that we
right.
approved?
Yeah, and Kathy won't
132.
need any health benefits or any other benefits that I know of. She's not doing this for financial reasons or remuneration, and she's doing it more than a favor to me to come in and bridge that gap for us. So
Anyone else?
Yeah.
Commissioner Mahar.
Have you spoken with the people in your office? I mean, do you think that this
I
is going
have.
to cause any other issues?
we got a great working relationship, really good team among the lawyers, and the office chemistry is really good. And I think Kathy will be a good fit for that.
Do you have anybody else that's applied for this position that's qualified?
No, I did have one conversation with a retired judge. I'm not at liberty to tell you publicly who that is, that lives in Eureka Township. And he was not willing to come on full time.
Okay.
And then that would have put me into another contract position. I thought this was just cleaner, get somebody in both feet, committed to the job full time.
I think I would be more concerned about the nepotism stuff if you had, a stack of applicants and you're like, well, no, I want to hire my sister. But it sounds like this is more out of desperation.
Well, it hasn't even been posted yet, so there were no applications.
Oh, it hasn't been posted?
No,
Okay.
she's not done until the end of this week, right?
Okay.
Yeah, Judge Hostess Krieger recently knew of a recent law school graduate, and I'm pursuing that aggressively. He becomes a young man can highly recommend it. So if I find there's an attorney interested in this, I'm all over it.
Yeah, because she doesn't really want to be here long term anyway.
No,
If we do hire her, where does that leave us? With how many more positions do you need to fill?
I'm sorry. What's your question?
How many more positions would you need to fill if we hire her? Obviously, we'd still be looking for a long-term solution to her.
Ideally, if I can fill the chief assistant position, or just have one more lawyer, it doesn't have to be the chief assistant, and get him up to speed, I think we can run the office we can run that office with myself and 3 attorneys easily.
How many do you have now?
Well, we have Gail, Betsy, and Megan. So I have 3 assistants.
Guy. Didn't we just contract with a guy, with a gentleman? Didn't we just contract with a
It
gentleman?
was Gail and Betsy we contracted with.
No, Gail's
Was
an
there-
employee.
Oh.
Yep.
It was a gentleman.
No, that was Betsy Hartley.
No, there was
And a
another guy that was
second
doing
was-
appeals or something.
Oh, yes. Mitch Wood's handling our appeals on
That's
an
right.
interim
That's
basis. Exactly. Yeah.
I will say, and I'm guessing the board has also heard that things are have started off pretty rocky. Obviously I have a law enforcement background.
Yep.
There is a feeling, I think, amongst law enforcement that the turnstile of the criminal justice system has kind of come to a halt, which, obviously isn't ideal. I know you're working to try to correct it, but hopefully we can get it corrected sooner than later.
Yeah, it's very disruptive to any office to have turnover.
Mhm.
Very disruptive. And Commissioner, from your background, I really encourage any of you to come visit us on any given day. It's the eye of the hurricane. It's very fast paced, And the staff there just really, really putting in the hours, really dedicated.
That's good. That is, I'm not trying to be insulting at all.
Oh.
I mean, you've got a lot of experience. It's just the feedback that I've received, and I'm assuming maybe others have received the same. So I know you're working on it. I just, you know, it's good to.
I really
just letting you know.
feel I'm doing what's best for my office and for the county to do this, and I'll take the political heat for it. You know, politics is a secondary consideration at this point.
Yeah, fair enough.
Anyone else? What's your pleasure?
I believe he was elected, and if he believes that his sister can handle the job for an interim basis, I guess, I don't know, who are we to tell him? No.
I guess I came into this with a little bit more negative attitude about it. I think when you really sit back and think about it, we wouldn't be hiring some Joe Blow off the street that used to mop hallways at a school somewhere. You know, it's obviously a very qualified person, happens to be somebody that's willing to do our county, our constituents a favor. The optics of it, again, aren't great, but you know, like we've said 100 times, you know, Mr. Ginster was elected as a prosecutor. He can run his office how he sees fit. We have to approve this, but at the end of the day, it's his decision. So who are we to say this isn't going to work or it is going to work, I guess. I get beat up enough in the Facebook comments, so I don't really care what they say.
Well, I think
Hold your own.
if we remove the fact that this applicant was not, if we remove the fact that it's his sister,
We wouldn't be having this discussion.
we would not. We would be
Right.
actually
It's the only
very
reason,
grateful
yeah.
to have somebody this caliber
Yeah.
applying for this position, even on an interim basis. We'd be like, man,
Yeah.
get them in there and we can, I think that
Yeah, the only,
the nepotism is kind of a secondary.
that's
second.
the only reason he's here is because there's a section in the policy manual that says relatives of department heads have to be approved by the board.
That gives me, because she is a family member, I've, you know, our professional lives have always been separate, but I had a front row seat and I know of her capabilities firsthand. And she's just top gun.
And you can give her a wet willy if she makes you mad or something, like give her a noogie. Is that,
Well,
Isn't that part of it?
First Wet Willie, she's heading back to Florida, I bet. Commissioner Carr.
Commissioner Mahar.
I'd like to move to allow Prosecutor Ginster to hire Catherine R. Ginster as Chief Assistant Prosecutor at the current designated salary.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Okay?
Thank you.
My sincere appreciation. Thanks for working with me.
That completes our timed agenda items. Up next is correspondence. Vice Chairman Peterson with tonight's correspondence, please.
I'll get it done as fast as I can. First up, for your board correspondence, Monday, February 27th, it says January at the top. It's January, not even January 27th, it's February 24th. Oh my gosh,
Sorry.
that's all right. I'm just like Ron Burgundy, I just read what's on the paper. First up, Community Advancement Committee funding request. I can speak to this and Brenda can add as much as she'd like or vice versa. We met last week. The Community Advancement Committee would just like to open up what we were calling our, for lack of a better term, toes in the water. First kind of run through for our grant application process. We're going to do it from March 1st to March 31st, if the board allows us, and then review all applications on the 9th at our regular meeting, and obviously bring our recommendations back to the commissioners in April. We were talking about spending, just in Brenda's very rough estimates, we would be looking at about $20,000 in interest from the $2 million that we invested last fall. So we were looking at spending about 75% of that. From there, we would only have one time a year. We're going to run it again in August 1st through September 30th. Is that what we decided, Brenda?
Yeah.
And so it would be a 2-month period instead of 2 1-month periods that we're going to try to do this year. I don't know if we'll see how it goes. We expect a lot of interest in this right off the get. So again, we just want to kind of try and see what we can do with this first little test run from March 1st to March 31st, see what kind of interest there is out there, and then kind of make a plan accordingly from there. So if the board would allow it, we would like to move forward with that. Does anybody have any questions, or Brenda, would you have anything to add?
No, not besides the fact that there's our rules and then our application are there too that we need approval on.
Commissioner Murray did make the observation that on page 17 of our packet, he was omitted from the board members. He was pretty sore about that.
I am.
Still is, yeah.
Right. So when these recommendations come back to the full board for our approval, do we have a set of guidelines of what the goal of this is, what we're going to approve? I mean, so far I've heard anywhere from a municipality receiving a grant to enhance their pavilion to a local entrepreneur needing 10 grand of seed money to start his life's dream business. So is there and when it comes to us, is it just going to be subjective to what the way the wind's blowing that day, or what's going to be what are we going to look at when it comes back and lands in our lap?
So if you check, starting on page 15, if you check kind of our general purpose and objectives, it kind of says what we're trying to look for to coordinate community advancement within the townships, municipalities, and Montcalm County through collaborative resource connections and partnerships. At the moment, I don't think we're looking at too many businesses or entrepreneurs that are trying to get their business started. We're not trying to be the Shark Tank or whatever the show is on TV. We're just, I think, initially trying to open it up to municipalities and townships and anything within the county proper. If we run out of options, which I doubt will happen, then we could open it up. But if you look under funding guidelines, section 2, number 2, the applicant must be a municipal, township, or nonprofit entity within Montcalm County. So, we're just kind of looking at that right now. There isn't any businesses, because I don't think when this all started, I don't think we were in the business of, government prop ups or bailouts or anything like that. It's just more of a, let's see what we can do within our government first. If this is successful and we can move forward, then, down the road, maybe we start looking at things like that.
Okay. Is there a good reason why the board has to take action on that? The committee seems very well suited to make those decisions.
Well, it's the board's money. I mean, at the end of the day, we decided that we could make recommendations, just kind of like the old finance and personnel committees and everything else. We make recommendations to the board. Maybe, one commissioner doesn't like a project as much as another, or, things like that, just to create a little bit more transparency and checks and balances. So we're not just kicking money out the door willy-nilly. We want the board to at least look at it and say, yeah, that's a good idea, or no, we don't really like that. So,
okay. Thank you.
Anytime.
Vice Chairman, do we have any idea so it looks like this first round, you're going to limit to 20,000?
Right.
15, it sounds like.
Well, yeah, because so
75%.
20,000 is kind of what we've amassed in interest since allocating that into our $2 million fund. So we'll be looking at 15, but we wanted to leave that door open, shoot for 75%. Maybe we hear a ton of good ideas and we go for the whole 20, but I doubt it.
What do you think the budget will look like come October?
We're hoping, and Brenda can talk in on this, but depending on interest rates and how the market goes, we're hoping around 60 to 70,000, and then going forward, if there is any fund balance, carry that over the next year, maybe allocate more. But, you know, if a full year of interest is accrued, we're looking at between 80 and 90,000 maybe, you know, but again, a lot of factors play into that. I mean, we might be outed by Doge. You never know.
Oh, no. So your committee would review the applications
Mhm.
and you guys would make recommendations to the
Yep.
full board? Okay.
Yeah. So again, that would just be another set of checks and balances. So, you know, we're not awarding, not that Darren Dode would do this, but, you know, not that, so we're not awarding, you know, 90,000 every year to the Village of Lakeview.
Yeah.
Just so there's a little bit, you know,
Yeah.
maybe, you know, you think that the Eureka needs a little bit of help or, you know, who knows? We just want to keep it all above board and be able to have that checks and balances in there. So we're not getting into the habit of, you know, maybe Peterson Farms needs a new combine, you know, who knows what, but that's just the reasoning for that. We just want, and if nothing else, we'd like Elizabeth to be able to print really good things about us.
Yeah, that'd be great.
It's what we all want.
Right. I'm just telling you, the first part of this meeting was amazing. I'm just saying that better be the front page tomorrow. But if nobody's got anything else, then I would move to approve the Community Advancement Committee Reinvestment Funding Program guidelines and application and allow the award process as presented.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Discussion. Hearing no discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you. This is, the next item is the creation of the law enforcement CPE fund request. Brenda, I think you can probably talk to that a little bit more.
Yes, I spoke about this at the last meeting where we did that special revenue fund for the other, the 302 funds. This one is a new grant program that just started, I believe, last year. And like I said before, the state's just getting pickier about things, the monies for these grant programs being kept separate, and us being able to track them precisely. So that's all this is about, is getting it out of the general fund and into its own fund.
Does anybody have any questions on that? If not, I would move to authorize the controller to create Fund 232, the law enforcement CPE fund, and transfer $33,000 in fund balance from the general fund as of 1/1/2025.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Next up is the creek naming request. We have talked about this and had no opinion, but it looks like Shelby Borqueen is very persistent and would like us to choose between New Costa Creek or Chit Creek. I know what my vote would be, but I don't know if it's the best vote. I think keeping everything civil would probably, the best would be New Costa Creek, but maybe a tourist opportunity to name it Chit Creek. I don't know. But what's everybody's feeling on that?
I was thinking Mount Wago. Get Montcalm in there a little.
Michelle and I were
Something.
talking about
Mount
that too.
Wago.
I said Mount Wago, or what did I say?
It didn't say we couldn't. I mean, these were two options that were previously on the table. It didn't say we couldn't.
Yeah, there's an application process.
So we can't give it another name?
I don't know. I can ask her, but we'd have to
Uh,
file an
it's-
application.
It actually says on here, a name must be chosen from the two proposals that
Oh,
have been
okay.
formally
I
applied.
thought it was kind of open season, so, all right.
It used to be when we
It
put
was.
it on
Yeah,
file.
yeah.
We had,
Mm-hmm. Mount Wago. That is pretty good. Mount Wago.
Where were you when that was?
You got
happening?
some skin in the game.
Right.
Instead of McCosta, who's not even there.
So obviously the safe pick would be New Costa. Is anybody opposed to New Costa?
I don't know. Do we even care?
No,
I mean, it doesn't make any
no.
difference. Yeah.
I can't imagine I'm ever going to be taking anybody by this and saying, yeah, there's the majestic New Costa Creek
Right.
on the side of the highway. So if nobody cares, then I would make the motion that the Montcalm County Board of Commissioners cast their votes of the new Costa Creek and allow Chairman Carr to sign the appropriate document to indicate said vote.
Sport.
It's been moved and supported to go with the New Costa Creek and allow the chairman to sign. Discussion. If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Right?
Opposed? Motion carried.
Okay, up next, Mid-State Health Network Substance Abuse Disorder Policy Board. Say that 10 times fast.
Indicating your votes.
Requires an alternate. Charlie Mahar filled the position in 2024 and is willing to serve in 2025. Is that still true, Commissioner Mahar?
It is.
Okay. So you heard it here first. He is willing to fill the alternate position. So I would move to approve the appointment of Charlie Mahar as an alternate for the Substance Use Disorder Oversight Policy Board with a term to expire December 31st, 2025.
Sport.
It's been moved and supported. Discussion. Have they called on you much in the past, Charlie, to fill it?
Once.
Okay.
They only meet every other month. And John attends those meetings and likes to attend them.
Okay.
I did speak with him today, though. Sounds like I may start attending a little more. Well, I'll tell you after the meeting.
All right. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Okay, next up, starting on page 27 are your three warrant reports, starting with warrant report number 02132025 in the amount of $511,797.82. Next up, warrant report 02202025, the amount of $17,234.68. And lastly, warrant report number 02242025, the amount of $391,654.10 for a grand total of $920,686.60. If there is no questions on that, I would move to approve and allow for the appropriate signatures.
Sport.
It's been moved and supported to approve all three warrant reports totaling $920,686.60. Discussion. If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Next up, consent agenda items 8 through 12. Does anybody have anything on that? If not, I would move to place those on file.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to place items 8 through 12 of the consent agenda on file. Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Items 13 through 15 are for your informations, and we have no resolutions from other counties. So if there's nothing else, that will be your correspondence for February 24th.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Peterson.
Thank you.
Up next is committee reports. We don't have anything. New business. Item number 1 is clerk correspondence.
Yeah, then.
Number 2 is controller correspondence.
All right, I got a couple of things. One, actually very good timing. I received notice from the state last Friday that we will be receiving $465,829.28 in marijuana tax revenue next
Woohoo.
month. So
How's that compare with last year's?
about the same,
Okay.
I think.
We had
Very
one
much.
shut down, but gained one, I think.
Yeah.
So
So think about how we want to spend that. Lisa's machine, maybe.
well, I want to make sure that we can fund all of these
Yeah.
very thankful
Well,
organizations first.
Yes, and I will say that the opioid committee is willing to do the same thing we did this past year. If you guys want someone else, you want us to act or them to
But
act on your
we didn't
behalf.
use all the marijuana money last year, did we?
No. Mm-mm.
So I think that machine may be a good route to go down. I do share some of Commissioner Mahar's apprehensions with the whole deal, but it is what it is.
Mhm. So, yeah, so that's something we need to, maybe during budget time, we can talk about it too. And then that leads into my next one, budget work sessions. I know in the past few years, we've done multiple meetings in a week. Are you guys in favor of still doing that? Because I'm going to bring the budget calendar to the next meeting for approval. Does that work for you? Last year, I think we started on a Friday, then went Monday, Wednesday, then the following Monday, Wednesday, and then another, I think we had to add one more at the end of July. So we had 6 budget work sessions last year. Do you still want to do that?
I like
Routine,
that.
2 a week?
I like that way just because it gave us a little time to digest. Hopefully this year the budget process isn't nearly as,
I say that every
Yeah, I
year.
know.
And it's never
But
rings
it
true.
always is.
Days, what days are good, bad? We were doing Monday, Wednesdays, but we can change that up.
Monday, Wednesdays work good for me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
None of them work good. for
None
me.
work
I
good for
agree.
you?
Summers are busy, but whatever. Let's make it work.
Well, and
There's a couple of those dates, just full disclosure. are
This
not
was
good.
last year, yeah.
Okay.
when did we start last year?
Our first one was, so I presented the budget to you at our first meeting in July last year, and then we had our first meeting on that Friday.
So that would be the
So-
14th of July this year would be the first meeting when you'd present, and then the 18th would be that Friday.
Let me get there.
I can make my schedule work no matter what, but whatever works for everybody else.
Or we don't have to do Friday. I got 2 employees that are gonna be gone that day, so Thursday might work better for me.
We can start that next week, 21st and 23rd. And then we'll have a board meeting the 28th, so we could just come a little
Before,
early on that day. And then the 30th, do we need more than that set up right now, or can we add them as we go?
we could add them as we go. So you want to take the week of the 14th, which is our first meeting in July, to digest and go through everything? And come back the following Monday and Wednesday? Then the following
I'm just
Monday
throwing
and-
out suggestions, whatever everybody's.
We usually, what do we
Down
normally
the
do, like a
road for.
3 hour? 2 hour? What have
2
we been
hours.
doing? 2 hours? So 2 hour meetings, mornings or afternoons?
Mornings for me, but I mean, either way, I guess for me.
My preference would be mornings, but I mean, that's-
Mornings is fine.
Morning is fine.
What was the date of the first meeting?
Be the 21st would be the,
That week is better for me. The week prior to that's really bad. I'm out of town that entire week.
Okay.
well, then you won't be making our board meeting that week.
I'll leave on Tuesday morning.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. So 21st, 23rd, 28th, and 30th, is everybody? I would say on the 28th, we start at maybe
Month are we in?
1,
Right before the meeting.
right? Does that sit well with everybody for now? And if we need more meetings from there, we can figure it out then.
So on the morning ones, you want to start right at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock?
Ooh,
8.
I like 8.
I think 8 for.
Yep.
Most of us have jobs. Yeah. I think we all have jobs.
I use that term really loosely.
You two guys have hobbies.
Yeah, that's what it is, yeah. Feeding America is a hobby, I get
We'll
it.
do the 21st and the 23rd at 8 a.m. And then the next week, we'll do the 28th at 1 p.m. because that's our board day. And then on the 30th, we'll do 8 a.m. So I'll throw that, and we'll just leave it there. And if we need to schedule more, we can. So that's what I'll bring back for the next meeting for you guys to approve.
Cool.
And I'm good now.
That it?
Yep.
Okay, number 3 is chair board correspondence. I don't have anything. Does anyone else?
I don't have anything. It's more of a public comment, but I would just like to extend our thoughts and prayers to Commissioner Johnston. I didn't bring that up to the pastor, and I wish I would have. I thought he was going to hang on the whole time, and we maybe slip that in there, but he took off. But I think we need to at least be thinking about him. He's going through a rough time, so.
Sure, thank you.
And I would move to adjourn.
Nothing in old business, public comments.
That's my public comment.
Yeah, I do have a thought.
Uh-oh.
The hiring policy committee, didn't we come up with one of those?
Yep, we did.
Yeah.
You're on it.
What's the plan with that?
I don't know, when you want to meet?
I feel like it'd be a good time to talk about the steps and everything. You know, maybe that's the time when they're hiring them in, that's when you do the step thing so that if not, you follow the natural progression
Well,
of
this
steps.
was for directors,
Policies.
For directors.
just for
only.
directors.
Just directors, but
We could branch out into that, but
Is it you, and you?
Yeah. Charlie,
Three of you guys,
I think there was 4.
I think it's
Charlie.
Charlie and Matt and those two.
2 and 2.
Yeah.
So
I
do
know,
you
when
guys
you wanna
want to get together and figure out when, or Brenda assign it, or how are you gonna start? Starting's the hard part.
Well, let's do it before July.
I agree,
Right.
before summer, preferably.
What's everybody's next month look like?
I say this week's bad for me. I got a lot going on this week.
Into March.
I can do anytime Monday,
What's
Wednesday afternoon.
Commissioner Murray? What's your best day of the week?
Mondays or Fridays?
Okay, Commissioner Mahar.
Those are probably my two worst.
I know, that's what I was thinking too.
Mondays are always super busy, and
Yep, Friday, who wants to meet on Friday?
Who
John
wants
is
to meet
gone on Friday.
I get it.
so, but I can make both of those days work, and most days.
Commissioner Alexander.
Monday or Friday would be good for me too.
So do we want to just do before the next board meeting on the 10th?
Sure.
Yeah, just come an hour early or whatever.
I can make that work.
Perfect.
3 o'clock?
Easy
2
enough.
o'clock, 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock? Is an hour going to be enough?
Well, we'll
We can
find
make it
out.
I was going to say, it probably would be. I'll come prepared.
It will be if it needs to be.
Mhm.
All right.
Before we adjourn, I just want the other board members to know that I personally have some trust issues with Michigan Medical. I believe that Lisa intentionally is hidden from not only us, but the other counties that she owns this. This is a for-profit for her. Nowhere would you find that unless you asked her directly. There was also a situation here a year or two ago that we've tried to work through that I don't feel that her Pat and Adam and I have met with parties involved, and I'm just not sure that they're the best one for the job. But that's my personal opinion. And I do have some trust issues, and I just wanted the other board members to know that.
Do you have any other suggestions?
I do not. I mean, Despero, obviously, I think they're going to be more expensive. I think cost effective wise, I think they are probably the best option if that's what we're looking for. But I would not be opposed at some point.
I don't-
looking at potential other options just to see what our cost savings are, and so
I don't disagree with you, but at the same time, I'm in big favor of capitalism, and she found a niche and filled it. You know, it is what it is. I do agree that it was kind of a shock to me to find out that it is her business. And that is a little bit deceiving, but at the same time, I'm not mad. I'm just kind of jealous that I didn't think of it first, I guess, because I'm sure she does very well.
it's and it's not the fact that she's the owner; it's the fact she doesn't let anybody know it.
Right.
And
Well-
she certainly comes off as that she's just an administrator,
Mhm.
and there's more to it than that. So.
Well, I think when it all started with that authority up there, the Morgan authority and the 3 counties that were off. I think she was just an administrator working for in Wagner's office. And then over time, she saw the big picture and parted ways. And now she contracts with him and she owns the company. And because I think there was a name change from the beginning when we went up there.
Well,
to that
was just the morgue authority at one point, wasn't it?
Well, that was a separate entity really from what her group is, but I think Brenda's right. I think maybe that examiner group name was different maybe in the beginning. I can't remember for
so.
sure either.
I'd have to go back in the archives, but
Charlie's right. I mean, there's some,
yeah, I don't
it was.
disagree.
It certainly wasn't anything that any of us knew about, and that's odd, I guess, that we wouldn't
Yeah.
have known that.
I'm all for cost savings, but I know the last time we looked into this, there wasn't any savings. I think we were going to spend more money.
Oh, I think so. I think this is definitely probably the most fiscally responsible way to go. I think, but I just at times I wonder if we're not getting less quality, I guess, for the savings. Now, I do think that machine. I'd like to do some more research on it, but if what Prosecutor Ginster is telling us is true, that most of these large municipalities are going to this, then I think I would be in favor of maybe, using some of that marijuana money either in a 1-year swoop or in a 2-year plan.
Right. Well, and you asked a great question that, she's not getting kickbacks, or she offered that up freely, but
I wonder.
also the fact that
I really did.
she wouldn't make money on it if it wasn't. I think it would streamline the process. So I share your concerns though.
Okay. Anyone else? Any other public comments?
I'll stick with my prior one.
Okay. Is there support? Support. It's been moved and supported to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.